Welcome back. Today, two campers establish a foothold in deep winter powder, building a shelter from the ground up before an impending storm hits. A flat, compacted base is the first rule of winter camping. Leaving loose snow underneath would allow body heat to melt the floor into an icy, uneven basin. The
Yeter
perimeter
bence.
banks
Bence
act
de
as a
şimdi
primary
üstünden bir de geçeriz
windbreak.
şöyle.
Değil mi? Aynen öyle.
In sub-zero temperatures, traditional tent poles become brittle and difficult to thread with gloved hands.
Biraz zorlayacak.
Ver. Biraz basayım.
Ver biraz da bana.
Terledim biliyor musun?
Normal.
Instead, inflatable air beams require only manual
Geliyor
pressure
artık.
to erect.
Kaldır.
The high-pressure PVC tubes form a rigid skeletal arch once filled. This offers superior flex under heavy wind loads compared to aluminum.
Güzel.
Oh be.
Linking two separate domes creates a vital airlock system. A double-door setup traps the interior heat, preventing the living space from dropping to ambient temperature whenever the entrance opens. The heavy-duty weather seals keep driving snow from penetrating the seam. Insulation against the frozen ground is far more critical than overhead cover. A thick, closed-cell mat stops conductive heat loss from leaching body warmth directly into the ice beneath them. As outside temperatures plummet, ambient moisture immediately crystallizes on the uninsulated walls. The interior requires a substantial buffer layer. Adding thick furnishings and heavy textiles traps pockets of dead air, significantly reducing the thermal mass the heating system must overcome. Installing a wood-burning stove introduces extreme localized heat. The stove jack uses woven fiberglass coated in silicone, capable of withstanding temperatures exceeding 500 degrees. A precise cut ensures a tight seal against the chimney pipe, preventing drafts.
Ya şöyle olsa. Olsa.
Çekmiyor.
Evet ya geliyor. Evet olsun.
By nightfall, the wood stove establishes a sharp thermal gradient, pushing the cold line out to the very edge of the tent fabric. The interior becomes a pocket of sustained warmth within the deep freeze. This contrast is the core appeal of winter camping, building a fragile but fully functional habitat in a hostile environment. The steady draw of the chimney maintains airflow, feeding combustion while radiating heat into the insulated space. But a heavy accumulation rate threatens to undo that stability.
Gece ne olacak acaba burası?
The blizzard applies a steady, compounding downward pressure on the flexible airframe. Snow is deceptively heavy. A wet accumulation can add hundreds of pounds of dead weight to a dome in hours.
Of. Ne ya?
Left unchecked, the structure will eventually collapse
Açabilecek
inward.
misin?
Bilmiyorum ki.
Clearing the perimeter prevents the snowpack from bridging the gap
Geleyim
between
mi?
ground
Yok,
and
yok.
roofline, which would freeze the base solid and lock the shelter in ice. Regular maintenance
Çıktı.
shifts from a
Çıktı mı?
chore to a
Birisi çıktı.
structural necessity. The shovel breaks the bonding layer before it can harden.
Ya kapanırsa gece tekrar?
Bakarım ara ara kalkıp. Ha. Öbürü de burada.
Orada mı?
Ha.
Hah.
Şuraları iyice alayım.
Bence de.
By morning, the true scale of the storm is apparent. The tents are nearly entombed. The continuous heat from the stove provides the only barrier against total burial.
Çevik'e bak. Merhaba.
Merhaba. Ben nasıl kaldım?
Gerçekten öyle. Şuraya mı lazım? Şuraya geç.
Anam güzel olacak. Gelin mi? Ben ayakkabının altına kalmış.
Hadi bakalım. Şurayı kaldır. Kaldır. Kaldır. Kaldır.
The sheer mass of snow forces the rigid air
Tamam,
tubes to
alacağım öyle.
buckle. Relieving this tension requires pushing from the outside to
Yoruldum.
break the friction hold.
Of. Ha, belim ağrıdı ya. Ulan sabah sabah
Ya sorma.
arkadaş. Sanoş vinil de yırtılacak ha.
Hadi canım.
Releasing the load allows the pneumatic frame to snap back into its intended arch. Air beams have an elastic memory, unlike metal poles that bend and permanently deform under severe stress. Pressurized tubes rebound the moment the compressive force is removed. Clearing the lower skirting restores the base tension, squaring up
Bir saniye.
the footprint
Buradan bir
and bringing
ittirelim
the
mi?
dome
Beraber yukarı.
back into a stable
Tamam.
state.
Bir daha.
Yok en alt tutuyor.
En alt mı?
Evet.
Tamam.
O alttaki ağırlıktan kalkmıyor.
Tamam.
Allah Allah niye kalkmıyor bu ya?
Kuzu hala kar var üzerinde. Kalkacak, az kaldı. Ah. Oh, deneyelim mi bir?
Deneyelim.
Tamam mı?
Tamam. Hadi. Hadi.
Heh.
Evet.
Inside, the rapid temperature fluctuation creates condensation and tracked-in slush. Removing moisture quickly is crucial to keep the relative humidity low, ensuring sleeping gear remains bone dry.
Nasıl başlayacağız böyle ya?
With the structural crisis averted, the focus shifts to normalizing the space. Introducing elements of comfort and routine combats the psychological isolation of a winter storm. Stringing pine boughs and ornaments transforms an emergency shelter into an established home. It creates a defined interior life separate from the survival mechanics outside.
Nasıl?
Şurada şunu tuttu.
Ha,
Çok iyi.
Adding localized lighting eliminates the harsh shadows cast by a single lantern. Wrapping the surrounding trees extends the boundary of their campsite, pushing back the oppressive darkness of the woods. Visual warmth heavily influences the perception of physical warmth.
Ay.
Çok derin.
Ah. Of. Huh. Atabilecek misin?
Bu kar yordu beni. Atarız ya, ayıp ediyorsun. Hazır mısın?
Hazır. Ay düşmedi. Bravo.
Ne diyorsun?
Tekte.
Cold weather camping burns calories at an accelerated rate just to maintain core temperature. Preparing a complex, high-protein meal is both a restorative necessity and a morale-boosting exercise. Shredding the meat by hand maximizes the surface area, allowing it to bind properly with the fats in the dressing.
Oho. Aç. Dökülüyor mu?
Oh.
Ay. Buraya kaçtı.
Bu tamam canım.
Oh. Şimdi bunlar da tamam olacak.
The lack of refrigeration is an advantage here. Ambient temperatures keep perishable ingredients fresh naturally. Mixing chopped greens, corn, and walnuts introduces essential fats and
Taptaze.
micronutrients.
İyi ya, güzel
Creating
kalıyor.
an emulsion with a heavy base requires thorough folding to ensure an even distribution. Working in a confined space demands organization and deliberate movement, as counter space is virtually non-existent.
Şimdi şunun içine mayonezi sıkar mısın?
Tamam. Ne kadar?
Göz kararı. Şöyle 4 kere dön. Güzel. Sarımsak da rendeler misin?
Plating the meal with care elevates the experience. Garnishing with fresh dill and pomegranate seeds mimics the visual of a holiday wreath, relying on vibrant color contrasts to stimulate appetite in a predominantly white and gray environment. The psychological value of a properly set table in the wilderness cannot be overstated. It reinforces order and intentionality against the chaos of the blizzard.
Güzel oldu.
Yemeğimizi de getirirsek tamamdır. Evet.
Buz gibi olmuş var ya.
Aldık.
Utilizing the flat top of the wood stove captures residual heat for roasting. The thick shells of the chestnuts protect the meat inside from scorching directly on the iron.
Hadi sen başla.
Yoklamak var mı?
Yok.
Bu yalnız çok sallanıyor.
Masa sallanıyor. Masaya değme, evet.
Oo, acayip sallanıyor.
Masaya değme.
Çok tehlikeli. Evet.
The next morning brings clear skies. Steeping herbal tea allows botanical oils to release slowly into the hot water. The brew provides immediate internal warming before they begin to dismantle the camp.
Her seferinde tadı bir değişik oluyor. Farklı oluyor yani.
Kuzu dünya şey var içinde, baksana. Birisi fazla gelince değişiyor ama tadı.
Leaving the clearing reveals the true consequence of the storm. The heavy truck compresses the unplowed powder, but eventually the sheer volume of snow overwhelms the tire clearance. The chassis bottoms out. This eliminates traction as the wheels spin freely in the trenches they dig. Retreating to the surviving shelter is the only safe option while waiting for heavy machinery. A farm tractor uses specialized deep lug tires designed for low-speed torque in mud and snow. And from the frame keeps the force linear, dragging the dead weight of the pickup out of the ruts and onto packed tracks.
Allah'tan yakınlarmış.
Allah'tan.
Mümkün değil çıkamazmışız ya. Şu kara baksana.
Kesinlikle.
In the end, extreme weather always commands respect. The gear survived the freeze, but escaping the wilderness requires a community effort. Survival isn't just about enduring the elements. It's knowing when to ask for a pull.